Underground until our final day is come. Let anyone who wanna attempt step into our chambers done. Get roped off, snatch for your soul, staring into Satan's mug. If you yapping your jaws, you better realize. Get your average fool, you better realize. Nobody laughing at all. If you can't damage your mic, what you grabbing it for? You better realize. If you yapping your jaws, you better realize. Get your average fool, you better realize. Nobody laughing at all. If you can't damage your mic, what you grabbing it for?
Profile the Majesty, Superman,
what you grabbing it for? What you grabbing it for?
Superman and IG,
what you grabbing it for?
It's North and Agony, Profile the Majesty, Superman and IG.
What you grabbing it for?
That was, man, that was great. That was great. But if you listen to the hook, we actually forgot something. We forgot to include the homie, founder member Majesty, into the conversation of the forming of Common Ground. Now, that wasn't because of any other reason besides he didn't live around here when we started doing this. And after he heard the project coming out, he did make a comment that made me say, you know what, let me reach out to Majesty and hear his side. So that's what we're going to hear next. You're going to hear a bonus episode of the Common Ground story. We still had to do it during quarantine time, and we had to get everybody on virtual conversation so the audio isn't, the same as the other episodes, but it was something, the conversation was just as great. So we'll do it one more time. We'll do an encore of the Common Ground story on the Superman Show.
We're coming out! Guns blazing! Blazing! Blazing!
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Welcome back to the Superman Show. It's the Common Ground story. And we got a bonus edition today. So let's just put it this way. We started to tell this show and we didn't really know how it was going to grow. We have the usual suspects with Agony and Shot in the building. And I thought that was good enough for the moment. And then next thing you know, it kept growing. Then we had Littles and North. Then we had Pro. And there was a person that was missing from the equation that we talked about, but never had a chance to say his word. Majesty, original Common Ground member, the man who named the crew, if you didn't know. He is here to tell his version of what happened. And we are so happy to have him here today. And, God bless you, brother. And, we got Shotty with the...
Yeah, fuck, why not?
Yo, that's what's up.
Yeah,
Production and full effect. What's good, man? What's good, man?
Good, bro. Everything's good. Growing. Listen to that first episode, man, and it was just like a rush of nostalgia. You know what I'm saying? There was a lot of good emotions, a lot of good memories, and it just took me back to a real good place in my life. I look back on those years with a lot of fondness. Being around y'all and watching y'all create. Being around Pro, watching him do his thing, watching you guys write Cypher, it was a really big part of my life, like my formative years. So it was cool, man. It was cool to kind of relive that.
Yo, and as I'll tell you from a personal standpoint, you and I were in the same boat. So for me, you were literally a person that saw everything I saw. So everything you just said right now, I totally understand and I totally agree with, because watching these MCs go to work and Pro go to work and just being a fly on the wall and just learning, and everybody was open-minded and heard everybody's input. So that was like a cool thing that I saw. And you were definitely a person who had a lot of input. So we wanted to, take the time and tell your story, tell them who you are, you know, everybody's story doesn't always, you know, end a certain way, but, you know, being part of the beginning and being part of what we came up with and what we continue to do today and still being able to jump on this and tell your version. Yo, let's start at the beginning, man. Like at what point did you get into music and meet Pro or start even get into the Miami-Dade college network of music? Like, when did that happen for you?
So, I mean, growing up, I was known as the hip hop facts cat in my family. You know what I'm saying? I was always reading the source. I was always into hip hop. You know, I knew everything that was going on. Before the internet, where you can just go on SoundCloud and download stuff, you know, I was calling my cousins in New York, send me that mixtape, send me this. So I always try to stay up on it. Huge fan. One of the things I wish if I had superpowers or a genie left would be that I wish I was a dope MC. Like, that's one of the things I wish I always was. So kind of fast forward after high school, I was kind of, you know, floating around, didn't know what I wanted to do. I enrolled in Miami-Dade and I started taking classes, trying to, you know, fill out my general studies and all that stuff. And I saw sound engineering and I was like, well, you know, this is a good opportunity to kind of get into that world and learn like the boards, the backroom side of it. Cause I was a big fan of the big production crews of the day. You know what I'm saying? So sound engineering, I think that was, I want to say it was late 98, early 99. And one of the classes was the MIDI lab. It was the sound engineering class with, forget the instructor's name. And then Fury was like lab manager and then Pro was his assistant. So we're in class one day and like Pro's walking around and helping everyone out. And we start talking. And I thought Pro was Jamaican, Haitian. I didn't think he was Dominican. So when I hear him talk, he said something, and I looked at him and I was like, yo, tú eres Dominicano. He goes, yeah, you know, that's like the universal language for Dominicans, everywhere we are. Tú eres Dominicano. That's it. We're best friends. BFFs for life. So then, you know, we started talking more. I would say after class, I would come afterwards, you know what I'm saying? Whenever I had a minute, we clicked. You know, to know Pro is to love him and know that, you know, I know a lot of people always pontificate on people once they're gone. But anyone that knows Pro knows what I'm about to say is true, that he was probably one of the best human beings I've ever met in my life. Very sweet-natured, good-hearted dude. Word. So when we met, we clicked, and he was just a good dude. And it just started off, I'm showing you this, I'm showing you that. And then it just built into a friendship. You know what I'm saying? So it was just vibing with him, just him exposing me. I didn't think, I was at that point in my life, I'm originally from New York. I don't say that too much anymore. I lived longer in Florida than I did in New York. But at that time, we're talking about 98. I moved down like in 94. So still fresh off the plane. I thought everybody in Miami was ass. Every MC was booty cheeks and doodle jaws. And then I'm in the MIDI lab and Pro starts playing stuff for me. I meet, you know, Gold. Dynass comes through. I'm talking to Nick. And everyone else, SOP comes through. I'm like, wait a minute. These dudes are kind of dope. You know, everyone I knew about before then was kind of like you, Fred. We didn't run in the same circles, but we knew of each other in high school. You, Rajon, and Mike. Me and Severe were very, very close in high school. Severe back then and Gambit, now Garcia. So that was like the limit of what I was exposed to hip hop. And then I'm in the MIDI lab and I'm like, yo, there's some dope dudes out here. So that's kind of how that started. And it just built off of that.
Yo, so after you built off of that, like to get into that standpoint, what we do go into in the Common Ground story, which, you know, you already know this part because you lived it, is that you were really integral with just putting the word in Profile's ear, that there was some dope MCs out there. And from what I remember, Agony, correct me if I'm wrong, you know, this was the part where, you know, the introduction of Pro came from Majesty, no?
Yeah, he's the one that hit me up and was the one that said like, yo, I forget like verbatim what it was, but essentially he's like, yo, you wanna jump on a track, you wanna get in the studio. And I was like, yeah, like no way I was gonna say no to that shit. And I was like, when? He's like, tomorrow. I was like, what? I'm like, I bet. So at least that's my memory of it. Like I would like to hear from, do you remember exactly how that went down, what the vibe was behind that, and
I
why
can barely remember what I did last week. I think it started, if I'm not mistaken, I had the class project was you had to engineer a song for the class. So me and Pro were talking. He was like, well, why don't you find somebody? And at that point, so we met. I think our common denominators were the Eusties and Cash. So Cash was probably the first. I've known Cash since probably I moved down here because he used to go out with his girl I knew. So we became cool that way. So that's how the introductions were made. And I knew y'all, again, from high school and then from Cash. So I said, let me reach out to Fred. Fred is dope. Let me see if I can get Fred on the track. And I think that's how you initially came over to the MIDI lab, and that's when everything started, if I'm not mistaken. If my memory serves me correct.
Yeah, that's pretty much the same memory I have, because I know it was for a project that, for the life of me, I wish I could find that track somewhere.
No. If I'm on that track, no.
You have it? Tell me you have it.
I might.
You need to find it, man. I would love to hear that shit.
That shit's in the vault.
It was me, you, and Pro.
I would love to hear what quote unquote dope was to me back then. That I was like, this shit is fire. I would love to hear it now and see what that sounds like.
I could tell you what wasn't dope. My verse. That was not dope. I think I failed that class, as a matter of fact. But so, yeah, I think that's how the introductions were made, and I think that's how everything started.
And what's your introduction with ID4? What is your first memory of running into ID4?
Well, you guys were a crew before we got there, though. You guys had started.
We formed up already. So the way I remember it was my first introduction to them was Bar Wars.
Okay.
I was in the MIDI lab.
First introduction.
I was in the MIDI lab, and Pro was either mixing it or playing for it. He played it for me. I forgot what the details were, but I know I showed up, and he put that shit on, and I'm like, who the fuck is that? I was like, where'd you find these cats? And this is going back and forth, and my mind is fucking blown, and I'm like, no. You need to bring them in. You need to bring them in. Tell them to come in here. Let's do a meeting. So when I was listening to the first one, hearing you talk about it, that y'all owed him some bread and you didn't know what he was calling you about, I distinctly, I kind of vaguely remember that. Because he was like, he mentioned something about it. I can't say what it was. I'm not gonna speculate, but he said something about it. But I remember, we're doing this. We got North and Agony. Let's bring in these cats. Strength in numbers. You know what I'm saying? And in all honesty, not to shit on anybody else, Shot was probably the nastiest nigga I heard in Miami, with the exception of J Pure, because J Pure is my favorite rapper. The nastiest nigga. I was like, who is this kid? It worked out. And then, if I remember correctly, when everyone finally got together that first night, I think we had a cypher till like 2 a.m. or something like that. 2, 3 a.m, because that one of many, many long nights at Blue. One of many, many long nights. But I think that night that y'all came over for the first time, we was around for like 2 until security kicked us out. And we had to go outside and hide and smoke cigarettes and come back in.
Right.
Because the security saw us, they would kick us out. But yeah, if I remember correctly, it just clicked from day one. And it was beautiful to see.
So you put the bug in Pro's ear a little bit then about making it a click.
Yeah, so I don't want to sit here and be like, it's me, I'm the architect. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to do that. But I remember when I heard y'all, I was like, Pro, I think, it'd be beneficial. We're trying to have a movement. We're trying to build a crew and make it. It's better to have a wide array of folks. You know what I'm saying? Like, the way I saw, before I heard y'all, like, G was that dude that would just come at you vicious, like a pit bull, just spitting at you, looking like he want to punch you in the face. Agony would just like rhyme circles around people. You know what I'm saying? And then y'all two come, y'all two young whippersnappers come out, and I'm like, yo, hold up a second. I'm like, no, hold up. If we get a crew, if we go to a cypher, we go anywhere, and we bring out these 4 animals, these 4 savages, there's no way that we're not going to get noticed. And that was the How Can I Be Downtown, when quote unquote Black Memorial Day weekend was popping off. That's when everyone was coming down here. So my thing was like, let's try to get noticed. And the way we're gonna get noticed is to get the nastiest, youngest, hungriest dudes and let's bring them in.
Yeah, that's the applause button, bro.
Oh, what?
The applause button, yo. Like, yo, that was awesome. He's like, he was zoned in. He was like, yes. Shotty was zoned in. He's doing no applause. He's clapping in his own brain. That's real talk, yo.
Ain't on Human Sushi, man. What are you talking about? This is your show, homie.
I had I should connect the keyboard and just add an applause, but that's some good shit right there. Because you know what? Truth is, we all actually felt that way about Shotty. That was one of the other epiphanies. Like, obviously, the epiphany about Pro bringing us all together and being a producer and being able to provide for MCs was the key of the story. But the other thing was like flowers for the MCs and how dope Littles is and how aggressive North is and how ill Agony is still dropping an album. But like for us, for our crew, we all felt extra confident with Shotty. So like,
can I just say something there? Like, and again, I never take that shit for granted, right? But like, I didn't know that shit until like recently. Like back then, I'm just like, I don't feel that at all. You know what I'm saying? I feel like everyone in the crew thought they were the best in the crew, as it should be, right? Like I didn't know that you guys felt that way until very recently, like this year type shit. You know what I mean? Because back then it was just like
you didn't know.
Well, let me say this,
know
right?
How notorious you were out here in these streets? Well, out there in these streets, I'm in Orlando.
Not till after, bro. Honestly, because when you're in it, you're in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? So when we were doing and forming and doing everything like that, like I gave Shotty his formal props when honestly a few years back, maybe when I was first starting to fish for some beats and grab some stuff from him and I had a heart to heart with him. But back then, in hindsight, like Shotty was the dude I was chasing within the crew for the most part, you know, like it was like with me and North, we always had that back and forth where we do certain tracks and it was like, you know what, I think he got me on that one. But I never felt like I had to work extensively hard to try to just keep up with North. Like I felt like him and I were kind of in the same playing field, right? So I think it was, and the same for him. I don't think he ever tried to say like, fuck, I gotta do that. Here and there were times when either one of us would spit what we had going for a track and we'd be like, all right, fuck this shit, scrap the paper, and I gotta rewrite my shit because that shit was fire. But Shotty was the one that if I was doing tracks with him or whenever I would hear shit from them, that's kind of like the dude within the crew that I was like, shit, all right, I gotta keep my fucking skills sharp because this motherfucker's not letting up. But we never really spoke that way back then to be like, yo, Shotty, you the fucking man and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? I was like, fuck that, you ain't no better than me, you know? Yeah. In general, but in my mind, that's kind of where I was going. I was sitting down and it was always there. But to Shot's point, it's true. Like we weren't sharing emotions and thoughts like that back then because there was still, like we talk about in the episode, that competitiveness between the two groups, that it was still like, all right, yeah, like we're doing our things together, but you know, we're still trying to make this shit pop off on either side.
But in hindsight, like I appreciate it, you know what I mean? Because it helped me, like I didn't get comfortable. You know what I'm saying? I needed to stay sharp because I was like, oh, all these motherfuckers think they're the best. You know what I'm saying? Like I gotta, you know, so that shit kept me sharp.
Yeah, because we may not, like, it's one thing to say stuff, but on the mic, everybody was spitting like fuck the rest of y'all.
Fire.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
like we gave each other props and we rep CG and we rep ID4, we rep North and Agony. But when you listen to what each individual was spitting, it was a very selfish flow of like, I am the motherfucking man. You know what I'm saying? And I think, and everybody had that. Like, it wasn't nobody put themselves under anybody. So you had to keep your skills sharp in order to fucking keep up with that squad.
Chris, were you there like all the way until the last meeting?
No. So I
bit,
stepped away.
Okay.
What were you saying? I'm sorry.
No, I was saying like we talked about it on the first episode where the last meeting was supposed to happen on September 11. and then we didn't show up, and then there was no more meetings after that because the school was shut down or whatever. So I'm just wondering, like the timeline, because I felt like you were there the whole time.
No, so towards the end, I would show up every once in a while. But I think in earnest, I probably checked out maybe 8 months before that.
Okay.
Maybe about 6 to 8 months before that.
Okay.
And there was extra shit going on. So, like, when you're not the talent, you know what I'm saying? Like, I dabbled in a lot of shit. I'm not an MC by any stretch of the imagination. I can write a few four bars here and there, but I'm not an MC. I wasn't a producer, although I would mess around with that. So when you're not the talent, there comes a point, at least the way I felt was, what am I here for? You know, you're here for motivation. And don't get me wrong. Me and Pro used to spend hours, just us two in the MIDI lab, hours at his crib, just going over stuff, refining stuff, looking for samples. So I used to pitch in. So I felt useful enough, but it just came to a point where I was like, I want to see what these cats do. You know, I kind of want to see what they do. And if I'm being real honest, it felt like a point, and y'all please correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like there was a point where it seemed like y'all were making music and you felt content with just to pump it in your ride. Like there wasn't a drive to do more. That was my opinion. That was kind of my take. And that was kind of where I just said, you know what? I think I need to back off. And me and Pro were still rocking. Like me, he was like, you coming to the meeting? I'm like, nah. But me and Pro used to go clubbing on the weekends. Used to come over to the crib. I used to go to his crib. So we were still rocking, but I just said I need to remove myself from this because I felt useless. I felt like I couldn't do anything. So I just said, see what happened.
You know, it's interesting you say that. I never thought about it that way, and that's a very interesting perspective, because if I have to not counter that, but like do some soul searching and see what I felt at that point, I don't think that it was that we were content with just rocking it, you know, in our whips and shit. I think it was exciting because we had never had that yet. Like I still vividly remember listening to We Blaze on a cassette tape after we recorded it and riding on the way home and jamming out to that shit, and my hair standing up in the whip and just jamming out, and that I was just like, yo, like this is like we on our way. So that whole movement of now finally being able to take all that creative energy and put it into a track, and not just put it into a track, but now have it on something that sounds way more official than it ever did before, was huge. So that was a big wave to overcome on my side. But I think one of the biggest things that we lacked at that point was just finances. Like, you know, we've talked about in different episodes, I think amongst here and on Human Sushi and on different places where, you know, the avenues and the resources that are available these days are nowhere near what we had. Like back then, if you wanted to put some stuff out, you had to pay for CDs, you had to pay for labels, and if you didn't have a machine to do that, you had to print them out one by one and put them on that little presser that you had to put in and smash out the bubbles, and you had to pay for the ink and the cases, and you know, it was bread that honestly at that point, shit, I was a barber, I think, for the first part of it, and then I had just started another job, just had a baby.
You were a brand new father too, yeah.
Yeah, so you know, there was no such thing as extra cash to just say, yo, you know what, here's $100-$200 to throw towards some promotional stuff. So to your point, I do feel like there probably could have been a potential to do more, and we didn't do as much as we could have at that point. Like a lot of that stuff started happening later on as we got more established, I think, financially. But you are right. We didn't do much with that. I think we did press out the album. We passed it out to a few places, but there wasn't like that official movement to try to say, all right, let's take this project and actually do something with it. And I always took it as far as just due to lack of finances. I never thought it was anything that we were just complacent. I mean, Shot, I don't know how you feel about it.
I halfway agree with it, because I think back then I was naive enough to think that just because I'm dope, that was good enough, you know? I wasn't like almost like willing to lower myself the way I thought about it, right? To like have to sell myself to somebody, because I'm like, just listen to my shit, I'm dope. You know what I mean? Like that's how I thought back.
Yeah,
So I'm like, I don't fucking sell myself to you. Who the fuck are you? Type shit, you know? But yeah, I think it was more like just naive, you know? I just didn't really know what it took to get there. That it's actually, you know, that a guy like Pitbull, you know, that like, you know, whether you like him or not, right? Like plenty people don't, plenty people do, right? But that guy worked hard as fuck to
You
get
got to
to.
respect it.
You
You have to.
You got to.
So I got a Pitbull story I need to interject. Do you remember when he was being managed by Phil at that point? Remember Phil?
Yeah.
Oh, did we lose?
It'll be back.
No, I reset the camera because I was frozen for some minute with some stupid look on my face.
You remember when Pitt was managed briefly by Phil? Phil the
I do.
All right. Me and Phil were cool. Remember when we took him? Was it to your house? We
I
Pitt over to your
I was
crib?
there for that. Yeah.
We were at my memory is that
You
was
tell the
at
story, Chris. Let him tell the story.
what house? Not I'm not letting him tell the story, but I'm trying to figure out what house do you remember it being at?
Shit, I don't know. I was actually racking my brain in the last few days trying to remember.
My memory was that it was at Frankie's crib, Frankie the
It was
Marine.
Frankie's crib. It was. That's right. It was and that you ate him up. Like I thought he was gonna cry. Like he walked out of that house with his head like hung low, and Phil was like, "You ain't have to do that." Phil was like, "Yo, you ain't have to do that." Yo, Ag killed him. And no disrespect, I got enough respect for Pitt, and I'm glad for his success because that dude. I remember him standing on the corner of Washington on South Beach, freestyling nobody, and anybody who was standing around him. Like that dude, he worked. He worked.
Put in work. They put in work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
But
no, I do remember that night. And Shotty was with me. Shotty was with me that night. So and we both.
There?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, I was there.
I think it was G.
I thought it was me.
It was me and Shot. It was me and Shot, and I remember
And
we had
history.
and it was all by chance because I don't even know why Shot was with me because we were just hanging out, and then I don't know why we went to Frankie's crib, but I do remember that it wasn't to meet up with Phil and Pitt. We went to just kind of go hang out and shoot the shit.
No, it was.
It was with a purpose.
Well,
it was.
It was. Yeah. I took Phil. So we all went to high school with Phil. Me, Phil, and Los. Me, Phil, and Block were cool. And the thought process behind that was Phil used to work for Peter Thomas. How can I be down, Peter Thomas?
Mm-hmm.
So the thought process was let me bring these cats over there so they can shine, and maybe Phil go back to Peter and we can work something out. I think I had the adverse effect though. I think I screwed up. I think I shouldn't have done.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Like I remember being there and then it kind of just being like impromptu. Like when I was like, oh shit, like we're gonna have a cipher. It's bad. Like I don't remember what. And then I do remember that we went first. That I do remember. At least in my memory. This is the way I remember. I remember we went first. I don't know if who went first. It was either Shadi or me, but I know that each of us went. And then like Pitt was just like literally at a loss for words. And like, you know, and this isn't to shit on him or anything like that. I'm not trying to stir the pot or anything. This is just how the story went down. And obviously, you know, I'm where I'm at now and he's where he's at now. So he probably doesn't even fucking give a shit anymore. But the truth of the matter is that, you know, it was you know, he was at a loss for words. I remember saying like, yo, I don't know what's wrong. Like, you know, I can't spit a few lines. And in my mind, I'm like, I know exactly what's wrong, nigga. You came in here thinking that you was gonna be big hot shit, and you didn't know you just came up against two fucking, you know, conglomerates and shit.
Well, okay. Can I offer, you know, another tidbit here? He and I already had history. Like I'd battled him already, and like I don't know if you remember this, Fred, but as soon as we got out of the car and he saw me, he made like a comment. He's like, "Oh, this fucking guy!" Like he made a comment audibly. I was like, bro, this guy's hating already, you know? Yeah, because I'd smoked him. Like I battled him a couple months prior, and I had smoked him. So like he got a little tense at that moment. I think he thought it was just gonna be like a friendly cipher. And back then, like I said, I was looking for a battle everywhere I went, bro. So he saw me, he's like, oh, God. It's like, you know, this guy wants to fucking play. Like, I just wanted to scrimmage. So,
came in like MJ on a practice.
This dude came with his fucking knee pads on and shit like that. But, yeah, man. So I think he got a little tense, and I think that had something to do with why, you know, it didn't go so well for him.
You're very gracious, sir. I don't think so.
No?
It would have gone the same way. Yeah. No disrespect. I think it still would have gone the same way. Even if he was waiting for it.
Fair enough, man. It's the
Yeah,
small.
no, I remember. That's one of those nights that I remember walking away, and I was like, yeah, I didn't feel bad for him. I was just like, he walked into an ambush without realizing it. Like I would just, like but it's funny because in my memory, I don't remember going there for that purpose. In my memory, it's like we were just going to hang out, and Phil showed up, and it was like one of those like, oh fuck, like we're seriously this shit's about to go down. All right, fuck it. And like we've spoken about before, I was with Shotty, so I was like, all right, I'm straight. You know, I could have a mediocre night and it will still be good. But I remember just feeding off his vibe. Like I said, I don't remember who went first or not, but I remember that we murdered that shit. And fucking, and the funny thing is that I don't remember if that was the first that happened first or if the talent show happened first. But I know that we had another encounter with him where we went and we did some shit and we had, I think we won some talent show that he was at with some of his boys and everything. So, but I mean, back then the circle was pretty small of anybody that was making noise in Miami. So,
you talking about the joint at Cream?
Yeah, it was a slip and slide joint with we did Realize.
Yeah, that was before. That was before, if I'm not mistaken.
I was there for that.
Yeah.
You perform Realize. You perform your verse, bro.
No shit.
We killed it.
Remember that?
I killed it.
Shit was fire, son.
Yeah.
So yeah, going back to your story, Majesty. Like, out of curiosity, because I remember sitting in the MIDI lab when the name Common Ground came out of your mouth. But was that something that just kind of happened at that moment as ideas were being tossed around, or did you kind of have that already in your pocket on some, like, you know, this is kind of the name I would like the group to be known? That's one thing I've always been curious about. Was that like something that just popped in that night, or did you have that already thought out?
No, I had it. I ran it by Pro before that meeting. So I think it was me and Pro were either talking or we were somewhere, and I was obsessing over what the fuck what the name was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted something dope. I wanted something cool. But I remember running it by Pro, and Pro was like, with that little eating grin he would do.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah. So then I brought it up at the meeting. But I took it to Pro. Pro was cool with it, and then it happened at the meeting.
So did you guys have a meeting first, and then we came in, or because I mean, you guys had already picked a name when we got there.
No, Shotty, you were there.
I thought we voted.
No.
Didn't we?
We didn't even vote. I remember it, yo. This is what happened. We were in a
Well,
meeting.
we all remember it. We don't. Whose truth is whose, right?
Right. Well, this is my Bible.
Piece it all together.
So
Let's piece it all together.
this is my version of the Bible.
The Book of Soop.
We were sitting in the lab, and we had already done work. It was already ID4. It was already North and Agony. And we were already at that point where we were having meetings. And Majesty, I don't know if it was the day we were looking at performance video or a day that we were just sitting there. But I remember him going, yo, I was thinking about it, and we need to come up for a name of the group when y'all work together. That's what he said. He said when it's ID4 North and Agony is when y'all work together. And he was like, I was thinking of Common Ground. And everybody was just like, all right. And that was pretty much it. It was no like vote. It was just like everybody kind of looked around and was like, all right, cool. That sounds dope. And then we just moved forward on, because we were in the lab to work. We weren't in the lab just to hang out. Something was happening in the lab. So we kind of went back to whatever was happening in the lab. But it was he came up with it, he said it, and he was like, yo, I think we should name the crew Common Ground when you guys do work together as a crew. That was his main point. The collaborative of the two crews, we're gonna call it Common Ground. Anybody else remember?
Shotty, I saw you shaking your head.
Yeah, you remember Shotty? Yeah, you were shaking your head.
That's not how I remember it, because I remember you guys already had the name when we jumped on. That's how I remember it.
Nah, that I'm not
no.
gonna say no. Like that, I know. I strongly feel that wasn't what happened, because it was North and Agony. Like there wasn't even
It was Ready to Ride.
Yeah, bullshit.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. It was actually it was Ready to Ride. That's where we were going, because it was Surround, North, me, you. That's right. So, but CG didn't happen until everybody was coming together, and then we needed to come up with something for that collective crew of ID4, me and North, Pro, Majesty, like everybody. Like, what was that clique gonna be called? So that was after, and it wasn't that wasn't something that we had and you weren't a part of. I remember that we were all there for that conversation where it was like, yo, like this is. I remember Majesty bringing it up, and I don't even remember if there was a vote or anything like that. I remember in the lab.
All right, so at least we have a portion of the Bible together.
Yeah, I don't remember if there was a vote.
Definitely in the lab.
Yeah, I don't remember a vote or anything like that, but I do remember that it being thrown out there and everybody having the opportunity to say, nah, or all right, cool. And that's kind of what we rolled with.
Yep, that's pretty much it.
That's not. Shotty, you may have said, "I don't give a fuck." That sounds like a shoddy thing to say. I don't care, bro.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
No, but we definitely picked the name after y'all came in. We didn't come in because it was ready to ride, and it was only for how long was it before y'all jumped in? I don't feel like it was that long.
Couple months.
Not long at all, because all we had was those two songs.
2 tracks. Yeah,
we had 2 tracks. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we had Ready to Ride and Listen. That was it.
So, by the time you left, like, were we all still like kumbaya and shit, or was there already like any sort of friction in the air? Like, did you sense any of that?
Not that I remember, bro. Because I remember even when I left, it wasn't on some fuck y'all nigga shit and just leave. It was just I stopped coming around. I would come around every once in a while, but between y'all, not that I remember.
Yeah.
Shit. But
that
again,
later. I mean, as little as it was, I think it might have come later. Okay, later on, yeah.
So let me ask.
What was the root of that, though? Was that just a competitive nature?
Root of what?
The friction.
Yeah, we talk about it on a later episode. I think we both had different ideas. We had different ideas of what the beef was, right? Not even beef. I can't even say
the rift. You kept calling it the rift.
Right.
You guys talked about it on one of the podcasts, right?
Yeah, we get into everything.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I remember. Yeah. I was like, this sounds vaguely familiar. Okay.
Yeah, but it was like North and Agony's, reason was different than our reason. You know what I mean? So it was like we both had different. I was like, "Oh, really? You were mad about that?" Like, it didn't even occur to me the shit that you were mad about. You know what I mean? But
miscommunication was literally the problem.
Well, it's what I theorize. It's when the meetings stopped. That's when the communication stopped, and I think that's when the unity stopped.
Yeah, because we would meet up once a week formally.
Yep. On Tuesdays.
But, I mean, I think I spent more time with y'all than I did with anybody else for a good chunk of like a year and a half, 2 years. Like I was always in the lab.
Yeah.
Like I remember the chicken kitchen runs, the going out over here, getting some drinks, coming back. I was always at the lab. My mother was like, "Where you going? School?" She was just looking at me like, "You going to school right now?"
10 o'clock at night, motherfucker.
I'd show back home up at 3 o'clock in the morning. She's like, "Where were you?" I'm like, "School." Who? She's like, "Okay." As soon as some of the girls in, that was like my golden pass. Right. Okay.
Yo, props to Majesty, because it's funny hearing the duplicate side of my same story. Except it was agony or something, but it was literally, where you at 3 o'clock in the morning? And I'm doing runs at the lab. Why? We making music, out and like somehow I'm participating at this point. But let me ask you something, Majesty. Like, so you said earlier that after the crew wasn't moving at the rate your brain wanted to move at, per se. Did you ever end up with another crew? Did you end up doing anything else musically? What'd you do after?
So, yes and no. So I just bounced around, did, regular Joe shit, work, party, club. A few years later, I got the bright idea with one of my cousins, with my brother actually, that we wanted to start something. Kind of like an all-encompassing thing, maybe like a lifestyle type thing. Talking about like 2003, 2004. So me and him come up with something else. We call it, never got off the fucking ground. We call it URM, Urban Renaissance Movement. So I called Pro, and I'm like, "Yo, let me get some beats. This is what we're doing. This is what I'm going to say." At this point, Pro's already doing his thing. You know what I'm saying? Right. He linked up with his folks. So he's like, "Yeah, he shot me some beats. In constant communications. I shot him to some people in New York. Never really got off the ground. At that point, I was running a store. My family had a very stereotypical Dominican. We had a grocery store in Little Havana. So I was kind of trying to juggle both things.
A bodega.
So you know what? Yeah, I had a bodega.
I remember that. I remember that bodega.
Yeah, and I'll tell you a funny story about that in a minute. So I was trying to juggle both things, and it wasn't going right. It just, I didn't have enough time for this. I didn't have enough time for that. So I said, you know what? I'm done. Get Pro's beats back and just kind of let that flutter out. And that's it. I mean, since then, I've been a spectator. You had somebody on your show, Shot, Rolly, Naked Viking.
Okay.
He worked next door to my shop. He worked at a radio station back then. Like in, when did I meet him? I want to say it was like 08, maybe, 09. And he would come over. So me and him got real cool, real tight. But I mean, aside from just listening to his shit and critiquing it, I mean, that was the extent of it. I just became a spectator at that point. Happy to do so. Just enjoy the music. And now I listen to podcasts because I'm an old man. That's it.
I don't even listen to music. I just listen to podcasts, bro.
Yeah, that's it. I listen to y'all, Joe Rogan, a few other things, some Wonder stuff, and then that's it. Every once in a while when my daughter wants to listen to something, but I mean, it's just, I barely listen to music anymore.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
What's funny
It's
to
hard.
me, like what I didn't know is that you got into it at first wanting to be an artist, like on the artist side of it.
Yeah, that was like the aspirations, you know what I'm saying? But then I realized I sucked. This is not for me. I sucked. So I was content. You don't know the joy that it brought me when I would make a bullshit ass beat in the MIDI lab, and then SOP would walk in. And YC and Elohim and J Pure would just, yo, run that back. And I'll just start playing and they would just go off for 20, 30 minutes. And I'd just be like, y'all like this shit? They're like, yo, that shit's fire. That gave me so much joy, but it wasn't me. Like I was not good at it. You know what I'm saying? Like I could help with melodies, and some of those beats I would give to Pro. I'm like, bro, what do you think? And he'd take that shit and just flip it and make something infinitely better. Like nowhere near what I had. I had garbage, and he would make a 20-course 5-star meal out of it. You know what I'm saying? But I was content with that. I was content to be there and watch y'all work, because I realized I sucked. That's not me. You know what I'm saying? But it brought me joy to see y'all together, to see y'all at Blue, at M, and even in the lab, just bullshit, just going back and forth. That was good enough for me.
Yeah, the lab was dope, man. I mean, there's memories where some of those meetings were very formal, where we'd get there, we'd sit down, we had shit to talk about. Then there were others where, like, I have vague memories of Pro fucking with samples over in the corner, and Soop and other people just fucking around with the piano, just coming up with melodies, and then Pro getting pissed because there were a few others that were just on the computer looking at porn and fucking, like, you know, it was just like a hangout, you know. And
Bad girl.
and sometimes
porn.
sometimes out of that crazy shit. Yeah, like Littles was the one. He was always looking for that raunchy shit, like fucking just the shit that nobody else wanted to look at. He's like, yo, look at this shit. And I was like, man, fuck you. So but yeah, man, the lab were some dope fucking times, and you never knew who was gonna walk in. Like if we got there early enough, you know, you had those chances where Nick would come around and other folks, you know what I'm saying, that we've all mentioned from SLP and shit, and you know, and you could be in for a decent treat. But
yo, Chris, Majesty, Juice.
Man and many names.
So when we did this documentary and we started posting it, you did reply that you wanted to say your word. So did you get a chance to say your word? And is there any other word you really want to say before we even let the platform go with us just talking?
No, I mean, in all honesty, I know after I read that comment, I was like, I came off kind of douchey. But it was more from a nostalgia standpoint. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wish it wasn't. All right, so let me try to say it the way it came out. It came out like, yo, y'all should have called me. Y'all should have talked to me. But in honesty, it was like, yo, I really wish y'all would have called me. Just because of what we're doing right now. Just going back on memory lane, just the nostalgia of it is what I wanted. You know, it's not necessarily that I felt like y'all were lying. Y'all were on point about everything that y'all said. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't like yo, I think y'all shortchanging me. Shortchanging me for what? I ain't mixed no records. I didn't produce no songs. I didn't write no songs. You know what I'm saying? That was all you guys. It was more so I just wanted to be able to chop it up with y'all like I'm doing right now. And just kind of relive it, because there's a lot of things that even as I'm talking to y'all now that I'm remembering that's just kind of coming back. It's like small little memories here and there. And that was it, bro. Really, that was it.
Yeah, that's how I took
it. I
it.
appreciate it though.
That's how I took it though. I didn't like take it any other way. I was like, in fact, the reason, because of this COVID shit, now we're doing all these, remote fucking podcasts and shit like that. But back then the idea was like, let's get people here in person. Like the idea of doing a Skype meeting or some shit like that didn't even occur to us back then. You know what I'm saying? But nah, definitely, man. You're like a big part of the story, actually. Like your name comes up, I think, within like 10 minutes of the first episode. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so, I noticed that.
Yeah, man. So yeah, we recognize, we know where the name comes from. We don't know when the name happened.
or if it
or
was
who voted.
In, right? Or who voted on it.
Yeah.
It was Little Man. He voted behind your back.
Right. No, but you definitely deserve your flowers, bro. Definitely, man. And just like linking up to linking us to Pro and shit, and it's just the way shit turned out is still, I think, paying dividends to this day. For me personally, it is. You know what I mean? Like a lot of the work ethic and shit that I learned from Pro still pays off for me to this day. So you had a hand in that, man, and I appreciate that, bro.
No doubt. I was glad I was able to connect y'all, because that's what it was. I'm the facilitator. That's it. But again, I was happy to be able to relive this with y'all and kind of go back, because it's one of the points in my life that I look back with a lot of fondness, a lot of fondness. It was one of the best times of my life. It was fun. It was interesting. It was something new. I had never been in the studio. I never seen people work. The way y'all would go in and put down songs, and being able to get an opportunity to do some ad libs, and and then on the back end, there were nights that I would just sit there, me and Pro, just listening to shit until 3 a.m, just me and him, and just thinking back on that now, it's a lot of good memories. It's a lot of good memories. So I appreciate the opportunity.
So I didn't know, like this is new to me. Like I knew, like you were around with the crew, but I didn't know how. Like I keep hearing about these sidebars, almost these side meetings, and just connections that you and Pro used to hang out. Like I didn't know you guys were spending that much time just between the two of y'all like that. I mean, did you and him stay in touch? Because I know Pro, not to shit on him, but like him and I stayed in touch. But a lot of the reason was because I reached out to him quite a bit. It's out of curiosity. Did you and him stay in touch afterwards, like recently before he passed, or?
No. So it got to the point where right up until he got married, we were pretty frequent communicators. Right after he got married, life happens. You start your priority shift.
Yeah.
Married. You have a kid, but we would still talk. He would come by my shop. But the phone calls went from one a week to maybe one every other week to once in a while, right? And then towards the end, right before he passed, it was on the occasional text here and there, or like a message on Instagram or something. But it wasn't to the point where we were before back in the day. I mean, me and Pro, when he lived across the street from Miami-Dade, I used to be at his house all the time. If we weren't at the lab, we were over there. Sometimes I would pick him up from the lab after y'all had a meeting. We would go out. But me and Pro kicked it heavy. I got some Pro stories. I got a lot of Pro stories. A lot of funny ass Pro stories. Pro was a dude that would fall.
What's your favorite one? What's your favorite Pro story? Give us a Pro story real quick. Let's do it.
Not my favorite one, but a funny one. So I used to hang out with this wild Puerto Rican. Shout out to you, wild Puerto Ricans, right? Wild Puerto Rican dude from Hialeah. Do y'all remember 609 at the Grove?
Yeah,
the club? Yeah.
The club.
Been kicked out of there.
Gym 609 is what we used to call it. So me, Pro, and this dude who shall remain nameless go to that club, and this kid was a hothead, and he was a boxer. He was about 5'6", with the temper of a Chihuahua, just that short man complex. But he got hand. So Pro's happy. He got a Corona in his hand, and he's so lit. He's chinky out and he's smiling, and he's in his own fucking world. And we sat aside, we going off, but out the corner of my eye, I see my boys starting some shit already. So I take the bottle, put it in my back pocket, grab my lighter, put it in my other hand, and I'm like, shit. All right. So I'm peeping him, but me and Pro still vibing. We listening to music. He's like, yo, something come on. And out of nowhere, I see my dude square up and boom, knock kid out. So then all his boys start converging, and Pro's like, what? So I grabbed him instinctually, and I just kind of, Pro was big as shit. But that wasn't Pro. So I just grabbed him and I pushed him away. And I jump in. And he's just standing there like this. Like every time I look at him to make sure no one's trying to fuck with him, he's just like this. So after we get kicked out, because we get hemmed up and kicked out, he's like, damn, you should have let me. You saw the way you hit him? And the way, and he was like, it was like a little kid. I was like, yo, chill. You want to go get something to eat? He was like, you want slice? You good? But he was so amped. He was like, no, y'all niggas is crazy. Y'all boys is crazy. I can't fuck with y'all. We going out tomorrow? That was just one of the funny. Like he was probably one of the most grounded dudes I ever knew. He was just. It was cool to go out with him because again I had Los. It was Los. It was this cat. Like those are the people I was around. But when I went out with Pro, it was like a different vibe. Like we were actually listening to the music, we're critiquing it, and then I could see when his eyes light up when he hears something. He's like, I'm like, what? Yo, we gotta get to the lab. And I knew what he was thinking about, looking for a song, and he was gonna chop it up, or he had an idea or something. So it was cool to be able to go out with him and just vibe on a different level with him. You know what I'm saying?
It's funny you say that because one of the things that we mentioned when we're kind of talking about in hindsight was Pro's. I guess I don't know how we refer to it, but kind of where I refer to it now is at such a young age, his insight and level of maturity that he had compared to the way we acted to a certain extent he was like beyond his years almost, like to be able to assess the situation and make smart decisions and kind of see a few steps forward where at that point, my 20-something brain was only focused on what was immediately in front of me and the now. He was special. It's kind of like I'm telling you, he was unique in that sense that he was able to assess certain situations and make those determinations that at that point, like he'd see things that we wouldn't see, just like he would hear things we couldn't hear when it came to music.
Yeah, he was like the definition of an old soul, like straight up.
I'd never met anyone that likes to laugh more than Pro, man. Like,
yeah.
Me and Pro would jump on the phone, and I swear there was more laughing than talking. There would just be like 5-minute spans of like just us laughing, dude. Because we're just bringing up silly shit. Like Pro would literally call me just to act silly and shit.
Unless it was time to work, because when it was time to work and we wanted to laugh, he used to get pissed.
No sense of humor. No sense of humor, Pro, you got.
Nah, I used to get mad at you. I remember that shit. I used to go in there and start fucking around. He used to cut the music off, get pissed off, walk out. Yeah, I remember that. He was he was funny as shit. Whenever we would go out and he would get, because he had a very low tolerance for alcohol, very low tolerance. So my mission was always to get him drunk. And whenever I used to drop him off, he used to sit in my car for 10 minutes, laughing with his eyes closed. I'm like, bro, you gonna get out? 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 10 minutes. Get the fuck out of my car, son. I want to get home. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. My mom's gonna whoop my ass. Get out. You just sit there. All right, bitch. And just walk out. Come by the fish shop tomorrow.
See, that's dope. I don't have those memories with Pro. Like my memories with Pro are a lot of, a few hangouts here and there, conversations on the phone, definitely a lot of studio time, a lot of MDC time, but just like going out to clubs or anything like that. Like I know he would always go out with his boy Danny and other people, but like that side of Pro, like I never really got to hang out with too much on my side. So it's dope to hear those stories because like for me, it was most of my stories are just our relationship was based around the music, and then whatever friendship we had that created off of that. Like I would talk to him over the phone, like I said. Sometimes he'd come by the crib and hang out, but we weren't really going out clubbing. But then again, I wasn't really going out clubbing at that point in my life anyway. I was doing that maybe a few years earlier because just the nature of what I was doing in my life at that point. Like, you know, even going to the mini lab was a stretch, you know, because I had to get my ass home and wake up in the morning to go to work and feed the fam, you know.
I call that appointment only
family,
time.
different life.
Yeah, we did appointment only by that time. Like we had to put something on the calendar. Like I'll be there at 2 a.m. if it's on the schedule, but if it's not on the schedule, I ain't gonna be there. Those are the good times. But yo, Majesty, you know, we could do this. We could do this all night. So you know,
we could. I just got a refill. So I'm
yeah. Word up, Shotty. How you doing over there?
Doing good, man. What the fuck?
Just asking.
Doing great, man.
Thanks. How you doing? The Superman show. It's a lot more drunker than the Human Sushi show.
I got you. I'm great, man.
A lot more. It's a lot more going on. But
so I can't wait until y'all get into the Spawn part of the story. Get into Amin.
Yeah, and Amin was only there for a little while too. You know,
towards the end, yeah.
Yeah, he was there towards exactly.
Not only that I'm definitely doing like an expansion on this. If you listen to the Human Sushi show, we talked about it, but we definitely want to shine, you know, the spotlight on other people in the crew and other situations, and like give everybody a good amount of time to like, because Spawn has done a lot of things, you know. So Spawn, I need to have a series with Spawn. You know what I mean? The common ground portion is a very like beginning for Spawn, and like what he ended up doing and everything he ended up like working with is amazing. So that's gonna be fun too.
I remember catching one of his shows. It was when he was with Swenalo. It was dope. I think I caught a couple of his shows. Yeah, it was dope. His mom used to live around my store, and she would come in, her and his stepfather, and I didn't know who they were. And I don't even know how we got on the subject. And she was like, because obviously she knew we were Dominican. And she's like, yeah, my son. I was like, well, who's your son? Oh, he plays in the band. I was like, what's his name? And she goes, Amin. I go, I don't know too many niggas with the name Amin. I was like, I know him. She's like, oh, shit. They were cool to the end. So until I closed up shop, they would always come by. Good people. Her mom's and her stepfather. Yeah.
Amin is definitely one of the dopest MCs I ever met, too. Like, that dude, you talk about a guy that could rap on any beat, that's the guy right there. That guy could rap on anything, dude.
Yo,
so when
the
reaction I had with him, when I heard him, the reaction when I heard you. And I forgot, I think it was, who brought him in? Was it y'all?
Yeah.
Or was it,
it
was you guys, right?
Yeah, it was them.
Yeah, and I was like, who the fuck is this kid? It was like almost the same reaction I had when I heard you for the first time. Or you and Littles for the first time.
Yeah, man. He's crazy with it, yeah. Manny grew up with him. Like, Manny went to fucking school with him, Manny, and Pitt all grew up together and shit.
See, I remember when I heard Spawn rap, my biggest thing was that, like, I heard him spit one verse, and I was like, how are you going to write another one? You literally used, like, every word that could possibly rhyme in that fucking verse already, you know? Like, his rhyme pattern, and one of the things that we talk about throughout the course of that is that just with the way my brain is wired, like, I study the way people rhyme. Like, they may just write to write, but when I'm hearing it, I'm looking at their pattern of where they choose to hit their bars and where they choose to hit their rhyme patterns and how many syllables are rhyming and where the syllables are rhyming. And when I was
amazing.
When I would listen to Spawn do his shit, I'm just like, yo, like, how did you even find, you know, the words, and how did you not run out of words? Like, that was the first thing that hit me when I listened to him for the first time, that I was like, yo, this dude, there's no way he could write another verse. And then he'd do another track and fucking just do it all over again. I was like, yo, this guy's fucking dope.
Yeah, he's nasty. I compare him to Black Thought. Like, he reminds me of Black Thought in a way. You know what I mean?
I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
I can see that. Problem. I can see that. No disagreement.
Zero.
No disagreement.
And I one time, yo, my man Spawn, and he was performing with Swenelo, and he called me on stage, and I'm like, okay, this is like a real CG moment, because we've always been crew and we've always been homies and we always support each other, and that's just how we are. And he put me on stage and I freestyled with his band in front of like his crowd. That was just a confidence situation where like all the power just got transferred. And I was like, yo, Spawn, thank you. That was dope to live your life for like, a minute and 30 seconds or whatever it was, 2 minutes, and just vibe out. And we're behind the scenes people. So to be able to like talk to the musicians is always cool, but to be on the stage and do the performance side of it, and Spawn to share his spotlight, that was always some G shit. You know what I'm saying? Like real talk. You know how that is.
What I want to know is how'd they get you to only freestyle for like 2 minutes? Because when you start to freestyle, you go on for like 35 plus.
This was a professional engagement. This is not my backyard.
Because
Spawn
was never Bro starts to freestyle, you got to either cut him off or you got to cut the beat because he won't stop.
But Spawn was never one to like not show love and shit like that. Like that dude, he's not even like a competitive guy like that. You know what I'm saying? Like he's a dude that likes to share. He doesn't mind sharing the spotlight. That to me sounds right on brand with what I know about. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's like he's a generous guy. Was super fucking nice with the pen though, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's dope. He's dope.
I talked to him last night. I actually talked to him last night. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's doing good, man. He's doing good. He's living out in LA now. Yeah, we're talking about maybe doing some shit. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Shut your mouth.
Yeah,
Before
yeah.
he moved out to
Dirty
LA.
whore mouth.
Shut your
moved
whore.
out to LA. Before he moved out to LA, he had like a bunch of go-away shows with Swenelo. I tried to make it to all of them, and it was.
I made it to
man.
one down in Brickell. I
Yeah.
forgot which one it was, but it was dope. House was packed too. Everyone was there to see them.
Well,
it was dope.
I'm gonna drop a jewel that not many people know of. Like he wanted me to be his replacement in Swenelo. I met up one time and everything, but it just wasn't the right fit for me though. Like my.
Could you imagine Shotty?
Yeah, you would have made them do a hard fucking left.
Exactly.
Dang.
Exactly.
It would have been Swenelo Gravedigger.
Let's not talk shit, because you know what? Gravedigger, that went.
I would have loved to hear that though.
But he was pushing for it hard though. Like he was pushing for it real hard.
Let's give that real talk though. With Shotty, there is Slim Floyd should have been signed to Swenelo.
But that still would have changed their sound though. Even that version of my shit would have changed their sound considerably.
Yeah, but you would have Slim Floyd would have found the balance. I think Shotty was just too far opposite. Shotty was gonna murder him. Just
but it would have been dope to hear though. I think it would have been dope.
I think it would have been greatness.
I'll buy that album.
You would have taken him to a stratosphere, man. Listen, you never know. Well, but if you didn't do that, you wouldn't do Human Sushi. So everything happens for a reason. So it's all good.
Like Spawn's shit is Spawn's shit. You know what I mean? And I don't think I can come in and like replicate that or try to mimic that or anything. Like what he had with Swenelo was fucking perfect for what it was. You know what I mean? Like
perfect.
Yeah, I just didn't feel like it would have been a good look in a sense to like keep the band going and be the new front man and shit like that. But I don't know if that was the look for me. You feel me?
I think Spawn just wanted to come back. I think Spawn was like, "Oh, Shotty has it. I could come back to this shit."
You can keep it warm for me.
It's good hands. It's in good hands. If they got a whack MC, it would be horrible. I think that's what Spawn is. Like he has like an MC chest. So he's
right.
He wants to make sure the next dude jumping on the mic with his crew is gonna be proper. You know what I mean? Not no. Garbage dude. So,
but look, all that being said, though, with Spawn, and I've told him this is like I want to hear him on a whole project, like on a hip hop project. You know what I mean? Like I need to hear that.
Produced by.
Yeah, I need to
Shotty.
shit me.
Produced by Shotty.
Yeah.
Yeah,
When
by
was the last
Spawn.
time he
You hear a
did
whole lot
actual
of
hip hop,
hip hop shit.
like the hip hop, like straight up hip hop shit. Spawn.
I know he came out on a feature with me and like 20 something other fucking local cats for Source Spoken. It's actually a dope song though. And he's on it. And that was like some straight boom bap hip hop shit. But before that, I just don't remember him doing a lot of that. You know, I think I associate him with Suenalo for the last whatever 10 years or whatever, you know.
It's been longer than that, right?
Yeah.
Shit, maybe,
Yeah,
probably.
I think so. I think it was longer than that.
He's doing it for a while.
One of the times he came by my store, I asked him if he was planning on doing anything else, and he was like, "Nah, I'm good. I'm good." And he was like, I get it. That was a great fit for him. That was tailor made for me. It was dope. I just wish they would have blew up more than what they were, but they were dope. They were dope.
Yeah, no question about it. No question about it.
Nah, for real. That's some real local legends right there, for real. But Majesty, it's a pleasure, man. Like, we could do this all night. Like we said, man, it's a pleasure though. But to give everybody a quick wrap up, you know, Shotty and Agony in the building. We had a chance to sit down with Majesty, one of the pioneers in the Common Ground story. You heard his version from himself.
We got on Human Sushi too, man.
Let me know, bro. If y'all still doing this for a while, this is great. It's very convenient for me. But if not, I'll let you know when I'm going to be down this next.
Yeah, we'll talk about like one of the upcoming episodes. We're still doing the Skype thing.
Okay. Yeah. Let me know.
For sure.
Yeah,
I have
Agony.
the kids on with me.
Shotty, Agony. We didn't think we were going to do a bonus episode, but if there was going to be one bonus episode, it at least had to be with Majesty. So, any parting words? Because we thought we were done. So I'll pass it to y'all real quick.
Yeah, no, I think it was dope, and like this whole quarantine shit presented the opportunity. Because to Shotty's point, what he said earlier was that when we were first doing this, it was really about getting together at Soup's crib, and you know when we got North and Littles to come in, it was at his crib. When we dragged Pro's ass over, you know, we got him to come in, and then that was kind of like the gist of it. We're like, all right, who can we get to come over here? So that's one reason why like Spawn and you weren't necessarily part of that equation, because we were like, all right, they can't really get here. And logistically, initially the plan was to get this out a lot earlier. And then once it was done, you know, we started working on some things got delayed, and then, you know, the tragedy happened, and that set us back even further. So, you know, now that, you know, we're doing this, it was dope that we had. It sucks we didn't think of this sooner, but better late than never. You know, it's really dope that we got to connect and get your side of shit. You know, because him and I stay in touch for the most part, like either through social media or I send him some texts every now and then just to check in and see how things are going. So, so it wasn't that we hadn't been in contact. Like I said, it was just a matter of just not thinking outside the box and saying, all right, let's do it this way. So this was really, really dope, man. I'm happy you made the time to connect with us and give you a side of shit, and gave us an extra episode for people to listen to and to vibe with, man. I appreciate you being here.
No, man, I appreciate y'all, bro.
Yeah, for me, same, man. It's like it's just cool to get everybody else's side of the story, and that was kind of what birthed this entire project, right? It was me and Soop talking shit, and like me hearing a story that I was a part of from a completely different perspective. And it's like, okay, I want to see what Agony thinks. Damn, I wonder what Littles thinks. I wonder what North thinks. And it's dope, man, that we've like expanded this out to basically everybody that was part of the crew except Amin. We got to do Amin next. But yeah, man, everybody that was like kind of involved in that moment in time and that little movement that we had going and shit, like I've kind of got to see what the different perspectives were. You know, back then I was so like horse blinders that I only saw it my way. So now it's cool, like all these years later, to kind of like relive it through different eyes, man. So like Agony said, bro, I appreciate you making the time to come through, you know what I'm saying? Or to go to your garage or whatever it is that you're at. But
it's my pink room. It's the pink room.
Boom. One room. We call it the one wall.
But yeah, man.
Man, but it was an honor, bro. It was an honor. Thank you for letting me relive that time of my life, y'all. I really appreciate that. And next time I'm down in Miami, yo, when this shit all blows over, we need to get up in person for some drinks and other shit.
I'm with
So,
that.
I'm with the other shit. So
Yeah, I know. I'm
Yo,
with you.
that's a beautiful, beautiful way to end it. I got nothing left to say, man. It's a CG story, you know, on the Superman show. See you on the next one or whatever's next. Local legends, Human Sushi.
CG.
Yo, say what? Me and Superman, running over your land. Why? Say what? Chillin' in the cut. Me and Superman, taking over your land.